to do a super quick cup today. I'm going to do a coffee cup that's stackable. I'm going to see how quick I can do this, so it may go a little fast for my beginners, but let's see. Let me know in the comments if this is if you want more detail or not. Let's see. So first off, I use the sculpt environment, which is over here in the design, the little purple icon, and I'm going to start with a simple cylinder. And I select my plane, select the center, drag out, and I just measured a cup that I like that was 3.5. That's close enough. Inches by 2 inches tall. So here, this is asking me, so I'm going to say 2. And then I'm going to, I think this 8-sided thing is okay. I'm just going to go with that. And I'm going to do, I want to do a little stair step in this. So I'm going to take this loop and crease it. And actually cancel that. I'm going to do this loop and crease it. Actually, both of these. And the reason I'm going to do this, you'll see in a second. So crease those. And now you see they get a little bit darker. And what I want is this kind of stair-steppy look. So I'm going to double click on this, right click to edit form. I'm going to pull that one way down. And then I'm going to right click on this one, actually both of these, and use this center, which will shrink everything, except for I want the height the same. So I'm going to use this one. So this will just shrink into one dimension. And notice those creased edges gave me this super square look is exactly what I want, because I want these to kind of stack inside each other. And I left one loop up here because I might want to try making this a little, changing the profile. And I found that if you just have three loops on a surface like this, you can create a nice curve. You don't need more than that. 2 loops will just give you a straight edge. So like this is perfectly straight here, and that's fine. So I think this is the beginning of my cup. I'm going to finish form. And this is just a hollow sheet right now, so I got a cap off the bottom. And I could cap it in the form environment, but it's a little weird. So I'm going to use the what's it called? Oh, actually, sorry. Since this is a just basically a surface, I have to go into my surface editing and say modify or create, maybe. Where is it? Patch. It's kind of a weird term, but if I just click on that edge, you see it made a nice little patch. Now this one is a different color than the other one. So the yellow color is the inside and the silver color is the outside. So I need to stitch these two together. So this little stitching icon, which is right here, I'm going to select these 2 bodies, and then when you see the green edge, you're like good to go. And so now I got the beginning of my cup, and I'm going to thicken this as well. And I'm not sure if that I could do. I think I can do that in both this space and in the solid space. So I'm going to select on this, and notice it just grabbed this edge because its hard crease is kind of telling it that I can treat each one of these as a separate item. But I'm going to shift click and get all of these. And I think like 0.15 inches. And you could type in IN if you're not sure what dimensions you're in. So there's the basic cup, and it's good to thicken it before you put the radiuses, because sometimes the radius, especially if you work on a small outside radius, it collapses over itself on the inside. So it's better to start this way. But before I even do that, I want to make sure it stacks okay. So I made sure my capture design history is on. So you should see these little arrows and stuff down here. And so now I'm going to make a duplicate of this cup. And now I think I'm going to go back to my solid and use the move copy and make sure you've got bodies selected. And it's easier to select it in the browser. So there's my cup. And then that just gives me a clean selection. And then I am going to make sure I create a copy is click before I start moving, because once you start moving, it won't do it anymore. Okay, so I got these stacked up, and now I want to see. I can't really see what that what the intersection looks like. So I'm going to go to Inspect and Section Analysis, and then it's asking me which plane, and either this one or this one will work. And so now I can see my selection, right? And I can work in this section mode. And so this is a good beginning, but I can see I've got too much space, and this is going to rattle around in there. So I'm going to go back in to my my original sculpt, and that's the lower one. You can see the upper one's a little bit ghosted, so I want this edge, and I can't select the inside edge because that's a secondary operation, and that's not part of this. So all I need to do is select this edge, and if I click one surface and then double click, that should click the select the whole loop, even though I can't see the rest of it. And I'm going to make this a little bigger because if I see my cross section there, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. That might be a little too much, but let's hit OK, and then we'll see this should update. Oh, this is confusing, but I need to click up here on this finish form. Nothing's going to happen. I close that dialog box, but I'm still in the sculpt environment. So once I hit finish form, I can see now this looks like a good stacking ability. Now I might start throwing all my radiuses on, or radii. So the second one is just a copy, and I moved it over here. I don't know if I necessarily need to back up to my first copy here. I'm going to add some radius things in between here. I'm not sure if I put it on the copy if it would update, but so I'm going to click on my radius tool, and let's just do a bunch of these all together. So I want that edge, that edge, and this edge, and this. I like the fact that you can just push this arrow and see what you're going to get, but sometimes I want that. It's very finicky, so because I'm moving such a small distance, sometimes I start it and then I'll adjust it with the numbers over here or over here in this little floating window. So you have to kind of keep your eye out. There's lots of little floating windows that appear. So I did the outside first because the inside I might want different. In fact, I'm going to do these two, and I'll roll these until they just come together and say okay, and then I'm going to do this bottom one a lot. I don't know why. I feel like it's easier to clean if it's got a big radius on the bottom. Get your sponge down in there. All right, so now I've got two more operations after this, and so let's hit play forward. And now you notice that that copy is after I put the radii on, and so it's showing me the two coffee cups stacked up. So this is awesome. So now I'm going to push this back here again. Before I make my copy, I'm going to add a handle onto this. So I can turn off my selection, which is under analysis. So I could either just turn this whole analysis off, or I can pick this and turn it off because there may be more features in there. So let's put a handle on here. I'm going to go back and look at my selection just one more time. Make sure that I'm on the right plane because I want to section this handle maybe. So I am not sure which method I'll use to make that handle. That's what I'm thinking. Let's try, let's make one in the form environment just for fun. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch. Create sketch. And I'm going to click on this plane. And this will just be the kind of loop of the handle. This is very geometric, so maybe I'll try to make a more geometric style handle. So let's just see if I just do a line. And this doesn't have to connect because I'm just making let's go, bottom is going to be diagonal. And then I'll check this little box here, and they'll throw some radii on here as well. So I'm going to radius this and this, and this and this, and I suppose it'd probably be easier. Notice I'm still in the radius tool, so if I hit escape, I can exit out of there, and I can move these, and so maybe I'll just move these so they're just inside the cup, so I don't have to do any secondary operations, and it seems like I lost that radius, so because I moved it. So let's just do it again. 1, 2, there we go. Finish sketch. And I could use a pipe command maybe and just make a perfect tube. But let's see if we go to our create environment and create a pipe. And I'm going to select this. And notice this looks horrific. My diameter's too big, so I go 0.5 maybe. Let's see what that looks like. Nope, even more so. That's too big. 0.3. Now we're getting a little better. And I don't know why it always defaults to box mode, but if I click this little display mode to round, I can start to see my handle a little bit better. And I might have to go in here and adjust some of these little loops just to get this curve a little bit better. And yeah, sure. Let's just say okay. So I can see there's kind of this little bulge up here. These are going along fine, and then as I go around this corner, it starts dropping off here. So maybe I'll take this loop and edit form. Maybe I'll stretch this up a little bit and push this up, pull it in. And you could spend, I do spend hours messing with these little handles. So I'm just going to grab that little piece of this one. Maybe I'll grab this one and make it a little bit wider as well, because I'm going around this corner and it's doing this kind of funny thing. Maybe I need to pull this up and rotate these closer together to get a tighter corner is what I want. And so I'm just stretching it. So it's actually more of an ellipse, not a perfect circle at this point. But that's kind of more what I was thinking. I didn't like this little bulge here. Unless my my cup has a little curve to it like this, then they feel like they would match. These two, maybe I'll select both of these and make them just a little narrower and push that in just slightly. And this a little wider this way. And this just comes with it's purely eyeball. And maybe, you know, this looks like a little thin, so I'm just going to select the whole thing and use this bar to, whoops, this happens all the time. I selected the wrong little thing. So you can select it once just to get it, and then make sure you're in the right one. So I'm going to make this a lot wider. And so now I got kind of more of a squarish loop. And I say, all right, that looks good. And it might pop through the inside of the cup. In fact, it looks like it is. So I'm going to select this. I could trim that off, but it's just easier if that kind of buries itself on the inside of the cup. And I like to make lots of sound effects when I'm working. It helps me think better. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. So now again, I got a finish form. And there I got my handle, and it's going right up into that radius. I'm going to put a nice big soft radius on this. So I could shrink this, but I think it's better if I go back and edit this. And I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm just going to squish it down a little bit. And I find this form environment is way better for just doing the ideation kind of sketch. You might go back in and rebuild this in a different way when you're done, but just to get an idea super quick, this is way better. So finish form, there we go. All right, so now if that's buried, I think I can combine all these together. So let's go combine. Target body is this, and tool body, no. See, it's not letting me select this because it's not a solid. So I might try this other cool feature called boundary fill. Let's see if this works. This and this, yeah. And so this kind of is a lot smarter, and it just knows that these are overlapping. So I'm gonna. So first step is to select the pieces, and then the second step is to select these little check boxes to accept those pieces, and I'll say okay. And again, I've got this duplicating feature after this, but I'm going to put my radius on first. So I'm going to put a radius there, and I don't know, but I like big soft radiuses, radii, big blend. And you could go in here, this says it's tangent, and so it's going to come out, and it's not necessarily going to be a G2 surface. So sometimes this won't work. Let's try it. G2 surface, and two edges, constant radius. You can change this to chord length, which will make the distance between these two edges the same, and maybe that looks better. A lot of times one will work and the other one won't, and we'll say okay. And sometimes when you crisscross over two radii, things will start to fail. Fusion's smart enough to kind of handle a lot of that, but if I went a little bit bigger than this, it might start failing over this radius, so I might have to move my whole handle up. In fact, you see this one's just barely touching, this one's overlapping. I could go back in here, let's just do this just for fun because we can. And I'm going to move this up ever so slightly and hit OK, finish form, yada boom. And now I'm going to scroll this out to the end of my timeline, and I don't know why that handle didn't, the handle should have copied. That's a mystery. So that's fine. I'll move this over here and say, now I can, once I'm in a space and I'm not in the form environment, I'm going to click on this one after this and say, what is this one? And I'm going to say, delete all features after the history marker. And so now I've just got the one cup, and I'll just repeat that command. But let me throw a material on there first. So appearance. We notice that the paints, the glossy paints, look more like ceramic. And because this is more modern looking, let's do some modern color. Oh, I see what, no, I don't see what's happening. So there's two bodies on top of each other here. That's why I'm getting a because I guess I kept my tools. So, oh, that's what's happening. Okay, so I've got this is my my surface, and this is just the original cup. Let's turn this off without the handle. And then this is a new body with the two combined. So that's why I was moving the wrong one, which is fine. So I got this one is in yellow. And then let's do our quick liquid fill here. I'm going to go back in time to the beginning because I'm going to do a different kind of liquid edit. I'm going to make the liquid, I want the surface of it to be a little bit more irregular. So I've selected this whole thing. I'm trying to think if this is the best way to do this. Sure. Select this whole thing. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to shrink it a little bit. Whoops, I'm doing the wrong one. That's the move one. So now I've got two of these. If I go back into my bodies, and even in the timeline, all those other operations that made new bodies are gone. So this is my copy of the interior. So we'll call this coffee. And I'm going to double click on this. And shrink it a little bit. Now I'm going to hit edit, right click, edit form, shrink a little bit. And that's okay. And I'm going to shrink the bottom up. I'm just trying to make this overlap with the original cup, but be a little smaller. And this is a little bit dangerous because it's if I move the cup, the liquid is going to be its own form, and I'll have to go manually move that, but that's fine. So I'm going to move this one down, the top loop, edit form, move it down. And then I'm going to cap off the bottom. I could do this in the form environment, but this is going to be buried, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say fill hole. And notice it does this kind of weird collapsing, but I want to maintain that creased edge on the bottom. And then here I grab the top, double click, and I'm going to hold down Option, edit form, and while I'm holding Option, I'm going to pull Option and Command, and then it's going to make a crease there. Now I'm going to let go and just only hold Option. Ooh. And bring this in a couple times because I'm going to make a little ripple effect. So I'm just holding Option, I'm bringing in a couple times. And I'll say OK. And then this outer one, bring that back out a little bit because this I'm going to try to do right up to the edge. I'm going to try to do that little surface tension kind of look. And then here, I'm going to fill hole again, which is this little icon, or down here, fill hole. And in this case, I'm going to say collapse. Now, Fusion doesn't like when all these things come together in a point, but it does like square objects. And so if I look at my original grid, I'm kind of on this grid. So what I like to do is do this and then delete every other point. Now I've got 8 total, so what happens is this makes four little things in the middle that are actually squares. They got 4 sides, so Fusion likes that. But I'm going to do one more thing, is go up under symmetry. A lot of times these T-splines screw things up, and I also notice it's dark, and so that means it's got crease on it, and I want to uncrease that. And let's just leave it like this and see if it works. And so what I was going to do is grab this edge and pull it up, and that's going to give it that little curved surface tension deal on the edge. And then I'm going to skip one and bring this one up just ever so slightly, and this will give it a little bit of a ripply kind of effect. I don't want to do this too much. I just want a little bit of a, I could make this a little bit more irregular just by grabbing a couple random points and messing with these. And I like to grab a combination of lines and just so it's not totally perfect. And now this is going to be my liquid, and it's all capped off. So if I closed my first, one body, and I noticed there's something funny going on here. I might have this loop is actually intersecting, so it may tell me there's a problem. So I'm going to pull that back in just so it doesn't stick out of the side. And it's all closed up, so that's good. And so now I will say, turn that back on, finish form, and turn off the original single, that's now my coffee body. So it's good to label these. So, Cofefe. Turn this off, that off. We don't need the surfaces anymore, just the solid bodies. And now let's throw some material on here. Modify appearance. And I noticed that we tried a couple different things in the plastic, transparent, and the red acrylic is a great start. I don't know why, but I'm going to double click on this and make it darker, more coffee-like. And we played with the absorption distance before. I think for coffee this is okay. So now let's create. Sorry, what do I want to do? I want to render this. Oh, and I can close my little side window. And now you can see some of this little kind of ripply stuff on the surface. I like the shadows to go kind of either away from me or... and then if you click the setup, go to environment library, pick something interesting. Here, let's try this one. I haven't used this one in a while. And you don't see the thing change yet because I got to go back into settings and choose from solid color to environment. And again, you don't really see much until you kind of tip down and rotate around. Whoa! Oh, and this has kind of got a softbox room. Let's get the handle kind of sticking out at you. And render this. Oh, and I click this little bar over there. And it takes a while for this to res up, but you can kind of see that little soft edge, and the coffee is already beginning to appear. And those are the little things that just give it a little bit of life. So I'm going to add a couple more details to this. Now we've got the basic structure all done. I'm going to stop this.